And on today's program, we're exploring the Bard, Shakespeare, and the supernatural. Now, Shakespeare, writer, thinker, mystic, is considered probably the greatest dramatist ever. He shapes and categorizes human nature and culture and changed forever the way we write, read, and think. Now, his plays are a source of uncanny knowledge. They seem to know something about us, our hopes, our dreams, our fears, our desires. The plays are alive and have a type of consciousness. Shakespeare's works, their meanings and their interpretations, are debated and discussed constantly. They are, in fact, his plays are, in fact, a type of sacred text with a deep spiritual context, second only, at least in Western culture, to the Bible. Now, the writer's goal, Shakespeare's goal, is to showcase not how men think in myth, but how myth operates in the human mind without us even being aware of it. His plays have a cross-cultural universality and timelessness that make them meaningful to this very day. Now, his writings are, in fact, full of the folklore of his time. For example, during the 16th century, people conceived of the dead as being somehow in three places at once, three conditions at the same time, in heaven or in hell, in the grave, or walking around as spirits. Now, Hamlet sees his father's ghost vividly, but still wonders in the human mind what becomes of us after death. Now, the Elizabethans believed that candles or light burned low or changed color in the presence of spirits. Well, in Richard III, Act 5, Scene 3, just before a parade of his dead victims haunts the king, Richard III, there's a line, the lights burn blue, it is now dead midnight, cold fears drop, stands on my trembling flesh. I believe that's the line. Anyway, belief in God and the devil is at the center of their mental world, of the people of this time, the 16th and early 17th century. Popular belief in magic, the power of words, the written word, spoken word, are essentially a type of incantation. There's a synthesis between pagan and Christian culture. You have belief in God, and you have belief in magic. Now, Shakespeare, however original or large in conception, is firmly rooted in the supernatural. Gods, ghosts, graves, magic, witches, night-walking spirits, and horrible death. These are essentially Elizabethan stage traditions. So he's working within the tradition of the Elizabethan stage. Now, we have to remember that during Shakespeare's time, the Tudor and Stuart age, it was still possible to be persecuted or executed for conjuring, for witchcraft, for necromancy. So the audience are true believers. Supernatural events on stage would have had a more immediate impact than they would today. The Elizabethan night is darker than ours. The world to these people is much larger, much more mysterious. The roads are longer, and heaven and hell are much, much nearer. The natural world has not yet been divided or categorized. The fine lines between the fantastic and the factual are less clearly drawn. Now, Shakespeare uses a supernatural literary machinery that has two main sources, the medieval morality plays and Roman Senecan tragedies. Now, what is a morality play? Well, it's an allegorical play popular during the 14th to 16th centuries. The characters personify moral qualities, and they feature many serious themes. The play tries to teach a lesson. Morality plays are essentially a transition from the liturgical to secular. It's a stepping stone. Now, as I mentioned, there's another influence, major influence on Shakespeare, and that's Seneca. Well, who's Seneca? Okay. Well, Seneca is a 1st century A.D. Roman philosopher, statesman, and writer who's born in Spain in circa 4 B.C. in Cordoba, I believe. And he's essentially the tutor to Emperor Nero from around 49 A.D. to about 65, until Nero orders him to commit suicide. Now, his tragedies that are a major influence on Shakespeare are essentially reworkings of familiar Greek themes with originality of detail. The narrative accounts are essentially Euripides, Sophocles, but he adds a bombastic, moralizing style, and he dwells on details of horrible deeds with long, reflective soliloquies. Now, there's 9 chamber dramas that are rediscovered in the mid-16th century by the Italian humanists. Well, writers of this period draw inspiration from Seneca's tragedies, and his plays, when rediscovered, are a major influence on both French neoclassical tragedy and Elizabethan tragedy. Now, as I mentioned, the themes, he's from Spain, and the themes have a Spanish sensibility. There's a chain of slaughter with bloodthirsty revenge. Gods, ghosts, witches, violence, they're all there, and Shakespeare uses them to create a new style of play. All right, so he exploits this the immense possibilities of literature, and enlarges the scope and subject matter. Essentially, he creates a new pattern for the plays of his time. Now, Shakespeare, in his time, is amazingly popular with the public. The writer makes play-going respectable. Theaters begin to challenge churches as the place where people gather and meet and talk. There's essentially a potent theatrical flood during this period. And, some people consider this threat. Consider this a threat, dangerous. Let me give you an example of how big a flood, a theatrical flood, is here. Shakespeare's only the tip of the iceberg, okay? We have about 800 plays that survive from around 1485 to about 1688. There's very few that survive before the 1560s, and, Shakespeare, he writes plays for performance, not for the reader. They're not really published during his lifetime. All right, so records of his performances are scant and haphazard. We don't really know what order the plays were done in. The dates and order of composition of performance are difficult to establish. And the dates on a lot of the plays are not known with any certainty, which simply adds to the mystery. All right, now, Shakespeare's plays are collected for publication after his death in 1623, the publication of the Folio. And he essentially becomes the posthumous national poet of England. All right, so you see, during his life, when he's writing his plays, it's not respectable. But after his death, theater becomes respectable, at least until Cromwell enters the picture anyway. All right, so we know for a fact that he begins writing in the early 1590s. You can essentially split up his work into three categories. You have comedies, histories, and tragedies. He mixes dramatic conventions and uses rich language, in an inventive way to create vivid characterizations. Now, this sets him apart from other playwrights of his time. All right? Now, let's get into the comedies for just a second. Well, they're essentially mishaps of romantic courtship. They're playful. Gender sexual confusion. Examples of this would be the Taming of the Shrew, 1593 or so, and A Midsummer Night's Dream, 1595, give or take. Then we have the history. Well, this is essentially individual struggles for supreme power of the state, interwoven with real historical events. And examples of this would be Richard III, 1592, or Henry VI, 1593. Now, of course, we have the great tragedies, which are in the early 17th century, which are the summit of his art. Many people consider these plays the high point of Western literature. They're essentially psychological explorations, character, morality, spirituality, personality flaws. These people destroy themselves and others around them due to their psychological problems or kinks or hang-ups or whatever you want to call it. Now, there's four principal tragedies. They're Hamlet, 1601, give or take, Othello, 1605, King Lear, 1606, and Macbeth, which is around 1607. All right, so his last couple of plays, A Winter's Tale and Tempest, are very, very different than the rest. They're experimental and avant-garde. There's elements of forgiveness, reconciliation, and a sense of hope. Now, let's get into James I, the very strange king who's from Scotland and the first Stuart monarch. Now, he's temperamental, superstitious, and very misogynistic. He feels that women are the cause of original sin. They're foul creatures and the root of all evil. This guy has a strange interest or obsession with witchcraft. He's essentially convinced of the dangers of witches and believes in their power. He in fact writes a book, James I, around 1597 or so. It's Demonology and Witchcraft. Well, Macbeth is composed on command from the king because his lover and fellow witchfinder, the King of Denmark, yes, James I was gay, and is coming to visit, and he requests Shakespeare to write a play. Well, this is, of course, the time of the witchcraft Holocaust, which, I guess around 300,000 people are accused of witchery and burned in the terror that swept across Europe. Now, most of these people are women, and James is, this patron of Shakespeare, likes to attend witchcraft trials. As I mentioned, he's intrigued or obsessed by charms, conjuration, witches, and he becomes increasingly erratic and paranoid. He's convinced that Shakespeare's plays are dangerous. He's afraid of the dangers of crafty language. He views witches and actors as having similarities. They say one thing, but reserve another private meaning for themselves. There's hidden meanings in crafty language. And around 1611, 1612, 1613, Shakespeare loses favor with the king and is essentially tragically forced into retirement and exile from London at the height of his powers. All right. Now, when we come back, we're going to take a short musical break. When we come back, we're going to get into Macbeth. This is the Yardbirds with the classic tune, Only the Black Rose.
Gone away, almost nothing to do. Gone away, Though I'm alone now and there's nobody near, I hush my voice lest they should hear. My prayers go up to the sky, deep within me I die. I'll never cry, no one must see me this way. Left to find someone kind who won't leave me behind, who will guide me when I am blind, soothe my brow when thoughts hurt my brain, help me laugh when faced with pain. I long to find someone who will remind me of you. Only the black rose knows what I will do.
All right, that was his film adaptation of Macbeth, the Weird Sisters or Witches sequence, and we started the set with the Yardbirds with Only the Black Rose from their classic album and the Supernatural. We left off examining the Bard's connection to folklore, myth, and superstition of his time. We talked a little bit about the King James I and his connection to the Bard, and we're going to focus now on Macbeth, perhaps Shakespeare's greatest presentation of the paranormal or supernatural. Now, the Elizabethan stage featured a whole machinery of supernatural devices or effects. There's props, there's clanking, there's trapdoors, there's this, there's that. All right, now these plays are staged in daylight on a broad platform in the middle of the audience, and this play is essentially the rise and fall of blind ambition. A murderous warrior or thug with the imagination of a poet. This imagination is essentially his doom, because he can't stop imagining the horror and consequences of his crimes. He can't stop thinking. Macbeth can't stop thinking about what he's done and the consequences of his deeds. There's a line that pretty much sums up the whole play in a nutshell. I believe it's, stars, hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires. I believe that's the line. Now, as I mentioned, this play has a compelling spectral atmosphere, a genuine sense of the unearthly, and, there's images of darkness that prevail the play. It's essentially a type of guilty dream or nightmare, and this play can still grip us. Now, for those of you who don't know, let me give a synopsis of the play. I'll try my best. Now, Macbeth and Banquo, who are generals serving King Duncan of Scotland, encounter three witches who prophesize that Macbeth will become the Thane of Cawdor, then king, and that Banquo will beget kings. All right, well, soon thereafter, Macbeth is indeed made Thane of Cawdor, which leads Macbeth to believe in the power of the rest of the three witches' prophecies. Well, he tells Lady Macbeth, the real ruthless one in the play, who then plots to kill Duncan when he spends the night at Macbeth's castle Dunsinance, I believe it's called. Now, Duncan's the king. Now, spurred on by his wife, Macbeth kills Duncan, and the murder is discovered by Macduff. Well, King Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, I believe his name's, flee the country, fearing for their lives because they're accused of the crime. Now, as a result, they're suspected, as I mentioned, of murdering their father, and Macbeth becomes king. Now, worried by the witch's prophecy, remember I said he can't stop thinking. Macbeth arranges the death of Banku, his buddy, though Banku's son escapes. Now, Banku's ghost haunts Macbeth, and Lady Macbeth goes mad. She's essentially washing her hands endlessly in a dream. She goes gaga. She's driven to insanity by her guilt. Now, learning that Macduff is joining Malcolm's army, Macbeth orders the slaughter of Macduff's wife and children. Lady Macbeth dies, and Macbeth rises to a kind of a bleak grandeur when there's nothing left to lose. He has nothing left but the will to fight back. Now, Macbeth is killed in battle by Macduff, and his head is mounted on a pole. Then Malcolm becomes the rightful king. Now, this ending, a head on a pike, leaves the darkness of the play unrelieved by a dawn. There's no relief. There's no release from the tension or the supernatural atmosphere. Now, the play is essentially an obsessive meditation on fate and destiny. Whether fate or destiny is made by supernatural forces or made by ourselves in the desire of our minds and souls. As I mentioned, the atmosphere of this play has a consistently supernatural folkloric feel. Now, let me give you an example. The Weird Sisters / the Three Witches. Well, Shakespeare gives them a number of folk attributes. The Weird Sisters have beards. They have animal familiars. They kill their neighbor's livestock. Now, weird is the Anglo-Saxon word for fate. And Macbeth is essentially a tragedy of predestined fate or doom. All right. Now, the witches, the Weird Sisters, are derived, as I mentioned, from folklore. They're derived from the Norns. The Norns are the fates of Scandinavian mythology. They have power over time. They have enigmatic, the power of prophecy. They give these prophecies in a question-answer prediction manner of speech. Now, Shakespeare uses supernatural from the beginnings of Henry VI, which is many people consider his first play, to the Tempest, which many consider his last. He uses the supernatural. He uses folklore. He uses mythology. Now, the witches have three prophecies for Macbeth. One is beware Macduff. The second prophecy is no man born of woman can harm him. And the third prophecy is he need not fear, Macbeth need not fear, till Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. Well, these prophecies are have double meanings. They're ambivalent. They have a lack of clarity. They're genuine prophecies because true prophecy contains their own contradictions. The witches do not answer all questions. Their utterances, their riddles, have multiple interpretations. Remember, it's crafty language. It's dangerous. Now, the question is, do we act on them? Do we, how you interpret them is to act on them. Do we make a future? Do we follow the prophecy? Well, the three witches, all right. Okay, so the three witches at work over their cauldron, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Well, this influences later conceptions of a witch's brew. The ghastly contents that Shakespeare uses are derived from the lists and treatises of the witchfinders' manuals, folk superstitions, plus his own invention. He adds a few things in there, and it becomes a type of living reality. He influences the the concept, the thought of what a witch's cauldron would contain. All right, so of course Macbeth is known as a famously unlucky play, The Curse of Macbeth. New productions, of course, the curse is that new productions will be accompanied by at least one awful occurrence. And indeed often is. This is documented. There's many, many accidents, and some of them quite serious, that are tied in with the play. Now, actors, producers, directors are very superstitious about it. They refuse to mention it by name, especially on stage. It's known as the Scottish play. Now, where does the origin of this curse, where does the curse originate? All right, well, the concept of the Curse of Macbeth originates in the mid-19th century in New York City at the Astor Plaza Opera House. This is 1849. Well, there's a feud between two different actors who are playing Macbeth. The American Edwin Forrest and the Englishman William Charles Macready. Well, essentially, this feud between the actors topples over into the street. There's a bloody riot during a performance, during Macready, the Englishman's performance, and 22 people are killed, and 150 people are wounded or injured. Now these actors go to each other's performances and essentially boo and hiss at each other, and Forrest, the American, has a more democratic style. He's the Shakespearean of the people. He brings Shakespeare to the masses, to the great unwashed, so to speak. And Macready, well, he has a more cerebral, aristocratic style. And as I mentioned, these guys are feuding with each other. The American production of Macbeth, which goes to England, is hissed at. And the guy's almost strung up by the English crowd. And when the English, when Macready comes to America, well, he's hissed at by American audiences. So this feud between actors and productions becomes a type of class and political conflict. There's 10,000 people. There's a mob outside the theater, and the militia is called in. Shots are fired, and there's a bloody riot. So there's really like a class struggle going on. Who owns Shakespeare? Who does Shakespeare belong to? Does Shakespeare belong to the rich? Does it belong to the poor? Does it belong to the Anglos or the Americans? This is just insane. I mean, it's hard to believe that it would reach this level of hysteria. But there's a riot. Many get killed. Many are wounded, and this is the beginning of the curse. Now, Abraham Lincoln also enters the picture of the Curse of Macbeth because Macbeth is his favorite play. And he reads passages of Macbeth at Army headquarters in Washington, D.C., the day before he's assassinated. Okay? He lingers over certain lines and death passages, and the people he's reading the play to get a very creepy or eerie feeling about it. So these two incidents essentially create the mythos that Macbeth is a cursed play. And of course, Lincoln's killer, John Wilkes Booth, is a famous member of a Shakespearean acting family troupe. So there's that connection to Shakespeare as well. Now, let's get into the film adaptations and the Curse of Macbeth. Well, Orson Welles, we played a clip from his great movie from 1948 just a few moments ago. Well, his celebrated performance of the tragic king is essentially pagan society versus Christian society. He goes to Republic Studios, famous for low-budget westerns and serials, not the home of high-culture drama. He shoots the movie in 23 days. It's inexpensively produced. There's lots of cheap cardboard sets. There's lots of expressionistic. It's very atmospheric. It's very expressionistic. There's a very authentic feel to the film. All right. No, Wells speaks in a Scottish burr, and audiences essentially can't understand what he's saying. So the film is a box office bust. And after making Macbeth, Wells takes a 10-year break from Hollywood. He goes to Europe and works in Europe till 1957. 10 years away. He's virtually a pariah in Hollywood because of Macbeth's dismal box office performance. Now, the film is reissued in 1950. It's redubbed in BBC-like accents. And it's eventually restored decades later, and the Scottish accents are reinstated. So Macbeth severely damages Wells' reputation and career in Hollywood. Now, there's another film adaptation of Macbeth that's tied to the curse, and that's Roman Polanski. Now, he's actually working on the screenplay for Macbeth. This is in 1969 when his wife Sharon Tate is tragically murdered, the Tate LaBianca killings, and he becomes a very haunted individual. His life is never the same. Now he eventually makes Macbeth in 1971, and it's the first film after the tragedy of the murders, and it's a very violent, powerful, hallucinogenic film. It's like a beautiful but bad acid trip. All right, the Manson murders are restaged, retold. The film has a fatalistic atmosphere. It has a realistic design, unflinching violence. The slaughter scenes are graphic, bloody, nightmarish. They're stunning. And the film is slapped with an X rating, and which prevents mass distribution of the film, and it has very limited financial success. As I mentioned, he's working on Macbeth when his wife is murdered, and it's his first film after the tragic Tate LaBianca killings. All right, we're going to take another musical break. We're going to come back, and we're going to get into the Tempest. The great play of the Weaver of Magic, stranded on an island, Prospero. What a play! All right, we're gonna come back, so stay with us. This is God Rock Radio.
Center of the storm, something magic being born. When the world is torn apart by the beating of a heart, like a dam about to burst, like a drunkard's crazy thirst. In the center of the storm, something magic being born. It's the dark hours of the soul, when the nightmares take their toll. Shadows come to mark against the ticking of the clock.
Black Sabbath. Macbeth with called The Bard with Jack Weston Magic. Welcome back to God Rock Radio. I'm Jack the Agnostic Garcia. And before we took a musical break, we were exploring the supernatural link to Macbeth, the play itself, the curse surrounding the famous Scottish play. And now we're going to check out The Tempest. Many consider Shakespeare's final play. Now, The Tempest engages many questions in different direct and overlapping ways. For example, what is the nature of colonialism, race relations, feminism, psychoanalysis, and environmentalism? What is the nature of the intellect, the structure of the intellect? And it basically connects science and art as a type of magical practice. It's brilliantly conceived play. It's tightly structured and very compact. It's essentially in the genre of the revenge play. But this revenge play takes an unusual form. There's no ghosts returning. There's no death or murder. And no past wrong has been righted. Now, the beginning of the play is the engine of transformation. The storm causes the wreck, the loss, the plot, and the discovery. Now, the past in the beginning of the play is retold, recalled, and revisited. The Tempest is, in fact, an allegory for the workings of the human mind and the mind's connection to the soul. Now, it has a grand narrative. It creates thinking. The play is a kind of ethnography of evolutionary life stages, essentially. All right, let's get into a synopsis here. I'm going to have to do this, so please bear with me here. I'll do the best I can now. The play opens with a storm raised by Prospero, who years earlier, as the rightful Duke of Milan, had been set adrift with his daughter Miranda by his usurping brother Antonio. Now, shipwrecked on an enchanted island, Prospero masters the arts of magic and liberates several good spirits who have been tormented by the sorceress Sycorax, I believe her name is, including Ariel, who becomes his servant. Now, the atavistic Caliban, the sorceress's son, becomes Prospero's slave, and Prospero raises the Tempest to overtake Antonio and his courtiers, casting them on the shores of his island at the beginning of the play. Now, with the arrival of the outsiders, the process of reconciliation begins. The party is brought to shore by Ariel, but Ferdinand, the son of Alonso, king of Naples, is separated from the others and is believed drowned. Now, Ariel helps foil various plots against Prospero by Caliban and against Alonso by Antonio. Now, Alonso, the king of Naples, believing his son Ferdinand dead, is convinced that his son's death was punishment for Alonso's crime, and Alonso has a change of heart. Now, Prospero reconciles with all and prepares to return to Milan to reclaim his throne. That's essentially the play in a nutshell. Now, this storm, this tempest, is wrought by Prospero. He creates it. He's a magician. He creates the tempest to bring to the island the people who are the cause of his exile. Remember, this is a revenge play. Now, Prospero is, in fact, a magus or magician. The magus or a magician at this point in time is a recognized and respected profession. It's considered an achievement of knowledge. Now, during this Elizabethan Stuart era, science and magic are amalgamated. They are together. They are connected. They're not at opposite poles. They're branches of the same tree of inquiry. Alchemy, divination, astronomy, mathematics. They're considered connected. Now, this, as I mentioned, the magus, the magician, is a type of achievement, a type of skill, a learned skill. And the key to this skill is books, because books are a way of increasing knowledge, and they're the key to power. Now, Prospero prizes his books above all else. He chooses knowledge over power, scholarship rather than political power. And books, as Prospero views them, are the key to the betterment of humanity. He essentially builds an ivory tower of knowledge and hides from the world. Okay, so scholarship, academic work, is doing something for your king, for your country, for your people, for your world. All right, so this knowledge that he gains from his breeding, from the books, ultimately defeats evil, reforms the male characters, and converts sinners into play. This ivory tower of knowledge is loaded with power, okay? So, now, the humanities, liberal arts, are the key to the universe. Art, literature, music, philosophy, astronomy, mathematics. And Prospero, his power is held in the relationship to his books. They are the source of his strength, of his insight, of his knowledge. As I mentioned, Prospero is a genius. He is a combination scientific and magical. Okay? Now, Prospero, the character of Prospero, has a basis in fact. John Dee, the gentleman who was known as the last royal magician. He was an alchemist, a magician, a mathematician, astronomer, an astrologer, and Shakespeare knows him. Okay? He knows this gentleman. He's considered the most learned man in Europe with the largest private library in England. He's adept at Neoplatonic, Hermetic, and Kabbalistic philosophies. As I mentioned, he's the last royal magician for the British kings, because around the time of the Tempest, there's a split between magic and science. They're at the crossroads when the Tempest is written. Now, Mr. D, John D, devotes his life to communication with spirits. Now, he's a Christian magician. He's a Christian magus, so he's seeking angels, not demons. Now, he's essentially the last of a dying breed. He collects thousands of books on occult and esoteric knowledge, around 5,000. He salvages these books from monasteries and churches when they are ransacked under the orders of Henry VIII. Okay? As I mentioned, he's the last of a dying breed. He's the last royal magician in the court of the English kings and queens. Now, Prospero is himself a type of dramatist, because he's planning a drama to right the wrongs done to him. He steers his enemies into his power, then repudiates his plans for revenge. Now, The Tempest is the last play, many consider it the last play ever written by Shakespeare, and Prospero is the last major character created by the bard. He infuses himself into Prospero. He talks to us. Remember, the plays are alive, and he reveals his vulnerability. Prospero is an omnipotent magus, an inventor of characters, and a manipulator of events. Prospero is a type of farewell to the manufacturing of illusion magic with crafty language. it's a literary incantation or invocation. Now, as I mentioned, he's saying farewell here. There's a line. Our revels now are ended. These are actors, as I foretold you. We're all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. All right. Now, spirits. Okay. Prospero is essentially taught something of humanity, mercy, and forgiveness by a spirit, Ariel. There's a new level of consciousness. There's moral, spiritual improvement. Prospero grows through Ariel's influence. Now, Ariel, well, the use of this name alone betrays Shakespeare's vast knowledge in the supernatural, because Ariel is a type of spiritual superego. She fulfills wishes and plans. She has a civilizing mercy, and it's a multifaceted elemental airy spirit. The name Ariel is Hebrew for Lion of God, and as I said, it's multifaceted. There's many connections to Ariel. Ariel is the name of an angel. It's the poetic name for Jerusalem. According to Kabbalah, Ariel assists Raphael in the cure of disease. He's in the order of virtues. According to the Coptic mythology, he controls demons, and he's in charge of punishment in the underworld. In terms of alchemy, Ariel is the lion-headed demon, the lion-headed angel/demon, who's the third archon of the winds, and one of the seven princes who rule the air. All right, so the use of Ariel clearly shows Shakespeare's vast knowledge in the occult. All right, so now these fairies, these invisible spirits, these fairy plays are the key to Shakespeare's mind, creativity, and poetic imagination. All right, so let's get a little bit more into Ariel. Well, Ariel is a male name, but it's a female character or personality. Now, remember, spirits have no sex. They have no gender. But they have love, and they have desire. They may be beyond male and female. In some mythology, they are neither sex and both in one being. Okay? All right, so Ariel is imagined as a male, but during Shakespeare's time, gender on stage is an illusion. The character has a female personality, but the actor has a male body. Ariel is symbolic of the magical powers of transformation. Now, excuse me, let's get a little bit into how Ariel morphs from a male character into a female character. Well, this happens in the 19th century. The painter Henry Fuseli creates many powerful images for Shakespeare's plays between 1800 1815 or so, and he makes he paints this beautiful painting of a very athletic dancer-like Ariel perched on bat wings. Well, this painting begins to influence the stage productions. The primary example of this is Priscilla Horton. This is circa 1838, who's the first female Ariel. She uses a combination gentleness and sexiness. All right, well, these fairy plays, A Midsummer Night's Dream, The Tempest, are his most popular with audiences. Now, there's another female Ariel in the 19th century, Kate Terry. This is around 1857, I believe. She's about 13 years old. She has a ethereal presence on stage. She's very active, very energetic. She flies on stage. This is essentially the Victorian sense of what a spirit is like. And future Ariels are all female. Now, these gendering spirits giving spirits a gender it makes it interesting. It's really it gives it a new interpretation. It brings new aspects, new concepts, new relationships into the play. Now let's get a little bit into the film adaptations. I want to talk about Forbidden Planet, 1956, one of the great science fiction films, a rich, strange, brave new world of cinema. Now, this movie's directed by Fred Wilcox, who is best known for Lassie movies. Well, Ariel is transformed into Robbie the Robot. All right, well, it also features a very young and beautiful, not to mention virginal, Anne Francis as Miranda, Prospero's daughter. Now, Prospero's character is turned into Dr. Mobius, I believe or Morbius. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. Who's played by Walter Pidgeon. Now, this character exposes one of the main preoccupations from 1950s American movies, the dislike, the fear of intellectuals. The Tempest, the play, Prospero is a genuine intellectual. He's a scholar, he's a magician, he's a wise parent, he's a ruler of his domain, and he gives up power, and he does not repudiate knowledge. Well, in Forbidden Planet, the Prospero character, Walter Pidgeon, does not know himself. He's dangerous to himself and others. His mind runs amok, and he dies in the end of the film. The film's focus is the dark side of the psyche. As I mentioned, Walter Pidgeon's character does not understand the dark side of his own mind. And the monster in the film, the creature in the film, is from his own id. It feeds on the fears and desires of its own creator and kills, essentially, Walter Pidgeon's killing every time he goes to sleep, and his unconscious mind takes over. I highly recommend you see Forbidden Planet. It really is one of the great, great science fiction films of the 1950s. And I love Robbie the Robot. I'm looking at Robbie the Robot right now. I have about a 16-inch model of Robbie. I've always loved him. All right, let's move on to another film adaptation of The Tempest from 1982, directed by Paul Mazursky. Well, this is an interesting update or adaptation. It's beautifully photographed, very well written and acted. A New York architect, John Cassavetes, fed up with urban living, chucks it all away and brings his daughter, Miranda, to live with him on an isolated Greek island where he encounters a hermit named Kalibanos, Raul Julia. Then, thanks to a shipwreck, all the people in his life show up, and the play continues. All right. Now, there's a more recent adaptation, which is it's over 20 years ago, actually. There's actually an adaptation from a couple of years ago that I've never seen, so I can't talk about that one. All right, so let me talk about an adaptation that is certainly unique. Prospero's Books, 1991, directed by Peter Greenaway. This is perhaps the most bizarre adaptation of The Tempest. It's a free-ranging mix of film and high-definition video. The film is a type of magical experience. Greenaway creates dazzling visuals that at times can overwhelm the eyes and the mind. This is alchemistic cinema. Now, 87-year-old John Gielgud portrays Prospero, an aged Prospero, in exile with his daughter and his beloved books. Now, books are the recipe for life itself, because without his books, he would have never survived his exile on the island. Now, the unrated version, I have to give you a warning here, the unrated version, which is pretty hard to track down these days, actually, contains many shots of Gielgud's aged body, his slithering snake-like John Thomas, and wrinkled bony ass. So beware if that kind of thing bothers you, because there's plenty of it in Prospero's book. So We've examined The Tempest. What an amazing play. Shakespeare is, of course, the greatest writer of all time, one of the great minds of all time, and his work is, as I mentioned, timeless, universal, and will never, never die. The link to folklore, supernatural, as we've examined, is not only there, but prevalent throughout his work. All right, we're going to close this show with a couple of tunes. One from Denny Lane, doing his version of Paul McCartney and Wings. Well, actually, Denny Lane was a member of Wings, so I guess it's his version, too, of Mull of Kintyre. And we're also going to hear Jeff Beck doing Greensleeves. So take care, be well, and ta-ta.
Mull of Kintyre, oh mist rolling in from the sea, my desire is always to be here, oh Mull of Kintyre. Far have I travelled, much have I seen, dark distant mountains and valleys of green, past painted deserts, the sun sets on fire as they carry me back to the Mull